62 is the most popular age to claim Social Security in America. More than a quarter of new retirees sign up the moment they're allowed to. And here's the strange part. It's also the age the system quietly punishes the hardest. Claim at 62, and the government cuts your check by 30% for life. On top of that, you'll spend 3 full years without Medicare, buying health insurance on your own at the most expensive age to buy it. So why do millions of Americans do it anyway? Because for many of them, 62 isn't really a choice. Let's follow the money. Social Security was signed into law in 1935, and for decades, the retirement age was simple, 65. That's when checks started, period. Then, in 1956, Congress created early retirement at 62, first for women, then for men in 1961. The logic was practical. Plenty of workers, especially in physical jobs, simply couldn't make it to 65. Their bodies gave out, or their employers pushed them out. Early claiming gave them a bridge with a catch. A permanently reduced check calculated so the system paid out roughly the same total money over an average lifetime. Claim early, get smaller checks for more years. Claim late, get bigger checks for fewer years. Then in 1983, facing a funding crisis, Congress raised the full retirement age from 65 to 67, phased in slowly over decades. 2026 is actually a milestone year. Anyone born in 1960 or later now has a full retirement age of 67. But here's the thing. Congress raised the full retirement age. It never raised the early age. 62 stayed put. That decision quietly made early retirement more expensive. When full retirement age was 65, claiming at 62 cost you 20% of your benefit. Now it costs you 30%. Same age on the birthday card. Bigger penalty on the check. That's not a conspiracy, it's arithmetic. But most people who claim at 62 have no idea that math changed underneath them. Let's put real numbers on it. In 2026, the average retired worker's Social Security check is about $2,071 a month. But that's the average across everyone, including people who waited. Claim at 62, and you get roughly 70% of your full benefit. The reduction isn't a flat fee either. It's a sliding scale. Your benefit shrinks for every single month you claim before your full retirement age of 67, and 5 years of months adds up to that 30% haircut. For a typical worker, that means a check somewhere around $1,400 a month instead of roughly $2,000. Over a year, that gap is more than $7,000. Over a 25-year retirement, it can add up to well over $100,000 even before cost of living adjustments compound the difference. The spread gets wider at the top. In 2026, the maximum possible benefit at 62 is about $2,969 a month. Wait until 70, and the maximum is roughly $5,181. Same worker, same earnings record, a gap of more than $2,200 a month purely based on when you sign the paperwork. But the Social Security haircut is only half the bill. The other half is health insurance because Medicare, the federal health program for people 65 and older, does not care that you retired early. It starts at 65. Retire at 62, and you have a 3-year coverage gap to fill on your own. And 2026 is a brutal year to fill it. The enhanced subsidies that held down Affordable Care Act marketplace premiums since 2021 expired at the end of 2025. Insurers can legally charge a 62-year-old up to 3 times what they charge a 21-year-old for the same plan. Full price benchmark coverage for someone in their early 60s now runs $1,000 to $1,400 a month in many markets, depending on the state. That can mean $12,000 to $17,000 a year per person before you've paid a single deductible. The alternatives aren't much prettier. COBRA, the law that lets you keep your old employer plan temporarily, requires you to pay the full premium yourself plus an administrative fee, and it typically runs out after 18 months anyway. For a couple, the 3-year bridge to Medicare can cost more than a new car every year. So who's on the other side of these transactions? Start with Social Security itself. It's not a savings account with your name on it. It's a transfer system. Payroll taxes from today's workers flow almost directly to today's retirees. You and your employer each pay 6.2% of your wages up to a cap of $184,500 in 2026. When you claim at 62, you're not withdrawing your own money early. You're starting your share of that flow sooner at a permanently discounted rate. And the discount is designed to be roughly neutral for the government. Actuaries built the reduction so that for a person with average life expectancy, claiming at 62 or 70 pays out about the same lifetime total. The system doesn't lose money when you claim early. In fact, if you die younger than average, early claiming worked in your favor. Live to 95, and the system kept the difference you left on the table by locking in the small check. The health insurance side is a very different machine. That 3-year gap between 62 and 65 is a genuine market, and private insurers price it like one. Older customers file more claims, so premiums climb with age right up until Medicare takes over. Employers used to absorb some of this. Company retiree health plans once bridged workers to 65. Those are vanishing. In 2025, only about 27% of large firms offering health benefits still provided any coverage to pre-Medicare retirees. Yes, the risk didn't disappear. It moved from corporate balance sheets onto household budgets. There's one more flow most people miss: the earnings test. Claim at 62 and keep working, and Social Security withholds $1 of benefits for every $2 you earn above $24,480 a year. The withheld money isn't lost forever. Your check gets recalculated upward at full retirement age, but plenty of people claim early, keep a part-time job, and are stunned when their benefit shrinks or vanishes for months at a time. The rules were written in fine print. The surprise arrives in the mailbox. Here's the uncomfortable question underneath all of this: who actually retires at 62? The marketing image is a silver-haired couple on a sailboat. The data tells a different story. According to the Employee Benefit Research Institute, 58% of retirees leave the workforce earlier than they planned. Not because they hit their number, but because their health failed, a spouse needed care, or their job disappeared and nobody would hire a 61-year-old at the old salary. For a large share of early claimers, 62 isn't a finish line, it's a landing pad. And those forced early retirees tend to be the people least equipped to absorb the penalty. One survey by John Hancock found that a third of people who retired early relied entirely on Social Security for income, compared to about 1 in 10 of those who retired on schedule. Think about what that means. The smallest possible check, 30% below full value, becomes 100% of the household budget. A reduced benefit in the $1,400 range works out to under $17,000 a year before the Medicare premiums that eventually get deducted from it. The savings picture explains why. The median household headed by someone 55 to 64 has about $185,000 in retirement savings, according to the Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances. The average is over $500,000, but that number is inflated by wealthy households. And roughly a quarter of near retirees have almost nothing saved at all. For them, the reduced check at 62 isn't a strategy. It's the only income available. Meanwhile, the people who can afford to wait, healthy or wealthier, often desk workers, collect the enlarged checks at 67 or 70. And because wealthier Americans also live longer, they collect those bigger checks for more years. Researchers have documented this quietly regressive tilt. A program designed to favor low earners partly reverses that on the back end, because the rich buy time, and time is what the system rewards. So who pays for retiring at 62? Mostly the person doing it, in the form of a lifelong discount taken by those with the least room to absorb one. The 30% cut is the visible price. The hidden costs are sneakier. First, the survivor effect. When a married person dies, the surviving spouse generally keeps the larger of the two checks. If the higher earner claimed at 62, they didn't just shrink their own benefit. They shrank the check their widow or widower may live on for another decade or two. An early claiming decision made at 62 can quietly set a household's income at 85. Second, the insurance years. Between 62 and 65, a serious illness hits differently. Marketplace plans in 2026 often carry deductibles of several $1,000s and out-of-pocket maximums near $10,000. One bad diagnosis in the gap years can consume a year of Social Security checks before Medicare ever arrives. Third, the compounding you gave up. Every year you claim early is a year you're not earning delayed credits, and every cost of living adjustment for the rest of your life gets applied to the smaller base. A 2.8% raise on $1,400 is smaller than a 2.8% raise on $2,000. The gap doesn't stay fixed. It widens every single year for the rest of your life. Fourth, lost wages and lost contributions. Leaving at 62 usually means giving up your peak seniority earning years, plus 3 to 5 more years of retirement plan contributions and employer matches. For a worker earning $60,000, that can quietly remove $200,000 to $300,000 of lifetime resources. None of it shows up on any statement. All of it is real. And fifth, the decision is nearly impossible to undo. Social Security gives you one do-over. Withdraw your application within 12 months, but only if you repay every dollar you've received. After that window closes, the reduced benefit is yours for life. Most other financial choices come with an exit. This one comes with a deadline most people have never heard of. Step back and the design starts to make a certain cold sense. Congress needed to cut Social Security's costs in 1983, but raising the retirement age is politically radioactive. So they raised the full retirement age slowly, over 40 years, while leaving 62 available. Technically, no one lost the right to retire early. Practically everyone who does now accepts a bigger cut. It was a benefit reduction wearing the costume of a scheduling change. The deeper logic is that the system offloads timing risk onto individuals. The government doesn't decide when your knees give out, when your company downsizes, or when your spouse gets sick. You absorb those shocks, and the claiming rules translate them into a permanent income level. People with savings can ride out a layoff at 61 and claim at 67. People without savings claim at 62 and lock in the discount, and the pressure is growing. Social Security's trustees project the program's trust funds will run short around 2034. Unless Congress acts, the system could then pay only about 81% of scheduled benefits. Every serious fix on the table, higher taxes, trimmed benefits, or another retirement age increase changes this math again. Meanwhile, 10,000 baby boomers keep hitting retirement age every day, and more than half of them won't get to pick their exit date. So what is retiring at 62 economically? It's an option that functions as a safety valve and gets marketed as a lifestyle. For people with poor health, shorter life expectancy, or no other income, claiming early is rational, sometimes the only rational move. The system was built to allow exactly that, and it works. But the price is steep and mostly invisible at signing. A 30% lifetime discount, a smaller survivor check, 3 expensive years without Medicare, and a cost of living raise that compounds on a shrunken base. The people paying that price are disproportionately the ones pushed out of work early, not the ones sailing off on schedule. The winners are those who can afford to wait and who live long enough to enjoy waiting. In American retirement, patience isn't just a virtue, it's an asset, and like most assets, it's unevenly distributed. 62 is the age when Americans are first allowed to retire. The economics decide who can actually afford to. If this helped you understand how early retirement really works in America, a like helps other people find it, and subscribing means you won't miss what we untangle next. Thanks for watching.